Welcome to the last video for our 1904 royal lined coat. We are finishing the slit in the back. We start with the underlap, which in our case is reinforced with the lining fabric. If there is enough fabric, you can also cut the underlap wider and then fold it over. Lay the lining precisely onto the underlap and mark the seam line on the lining along the sewing line. Mark the beginning and end of the seam. Then secure the beginning and end and sew the underlap from main fabric and lining fabric right sides together. Turn and press. You see how we are securing everything from the outside, then you turn it around and sew right side on right side. Now press this edge carefully. Lay the hem right sides together onto the underlap and sew. Turn this edge and press. Trim back the seam allowance on the opposite side. Now fold the seam allowance under. At the upper end of the vent, clip the lining fabric diagonally up to the seam allowance. Turn and sew the lining right sides together onto the overlap. Now sew a mitered corner at the hem, slit edge. For this, you mark the upper edges of your corner where the fabrics meet. Where the two crease lines cross, you will see a small square at the very corner. The inner corner of that square is the key reference point for the diagonal fold. With both hem allowances unfolded, fold the corner so the fabric is right sides together. Draw a diagonal line from the point where the two crease lines intersect out to the corner where the two outer fold lines meet. This is your stitching line at 45 degrees. Sew along this diagonal line, back stitching at each end. Trim the seam allowance back to about 5 to 7 millimeters and clip the very tip of the corner to reduce bulk. Press the seam open, then turn the corner right side out. Fold the lining, hem allowance inwards, and pin secure. Then lay the slit orderly together and secure the position with a pin. Afterwards, at the upper horizontal cut, fold the seam allowance to the inside and sew it on by hand. Finish the hem completely. You could do this by hand now. However, if you want to sew the lining coat to the hem by machine, you have to leave an opening in the lining coat at any point you choose. The first side, however, is easier as you can turn it inside out with the open side still. Put your lining on your hem right sides together and close this seam with the machine. Once closed, turn this side inside out. Secure the lining edge with hand stitches. In order to sew the seams from inside the coat and being able to turn it, we have opened a part of the side seam. We will close that at the end by hand. Secure the hem to the main coat hem. Turn the coat from the side opening, machine stitch the hem, and turn to the right side again. Now you can close the side opening by hand and you are all done. We have added stud buttons for closing the front, but you can also sew in classic buttons for this coat, and you are all done with the beautiful royal coat. As we used a vintage fabric with a stain just above the slit, we also added a little bow right above to cover that. Have fun making your own lined coat. If you want to get the pattern, visit us at sistermagpatterns.com.